And now you're having gin and beer.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really why, but it's cheap. I got cheap beer and cheap gin, and I was drinking too much beer, and it's bad to drink too much beer because it's like it just like runs through your body, and to be for your body to be processing so much liquid, it's not good. And so now
Mm-hmm.
with the I'm drinking less beer, more alcohol but less beer.
More hard liquor.
Trying to
You
take care of
know,
myself, man. Health is a lifestyle. You got to really be committed.
yeah,
Yeah, this is the right place.
a little rough, but I get the premise.
I see where you're going. I see where you're going.
Yeah,
It's a little rapey right now, really, if you think about it.
it's a little rapey, a little pedophile.
Yeah, I think if I leave out the age thing, maybe it'll work better.
I think it'll work better. I think it'll
I
work
mean,
better.
I am thinking about performing this in front of like a crowd of just pedophiles, so I think it'll stick
Oh,
better. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
that's your audience. That's your target
Gotta think
market.
of yeah, yeah. I gotta think about your audience, man. You're obviously not part of my target audience. Cheers to that.
So you're trying to work at a comedy place, you
Just
said, or
just do a set, like just write a set, like because I'm always like trying to
oh,
write stuff, and sometimes I can't. Like one of the things I'm trying to write is a set of like essays, like
mm-hmm.
a little collection of essays.
Yeah,
And I mean, you're not always in that mindset to write something that's relevant to the other, like the same type of work. But
mm-hmm.
so you might feel more like writing a couple jokes or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Trying to keep projects open. So
What if you
anyway,
would recording be better?
I tried recording stuff, and it does work better in the sense that like it feels more natural and it's easier. But
Yeah.
like getting them sorted out takes forever because
Oh
have
yeah, then you have to play it back and
I mean, on my phone I could do it, but and then change the name and stuff so I know what it is.
yeah,
But I have a little like a little
tape recorder.
a tape recorder, and you can't really change the names on there. So you're like going through the files and like listening, like, no, no, that's not it. No,
Yeah.
no, that's not it. Yeah, it just
You have
takes
to
too
you have
long.
to you have to start with today's September or April 12th, at 11:22 a.m. joke blah blah blah.
I, I mean, I was gonna say the date is not gonna help because I never know what day it is. So it's like, yeah, what was I doing on September 12th at 11 a.m.? What was my mindset? What was my mindset?
Yeah. Then you got to think harder.
A lot of the time when I go through the recordings, I find like raps. Like I went through a phase where I was doing like little rhymes, and I'm like, "Ah, damn
Or
it, yeah, like God damn it."
like you're trying to rap a song or what?
Yeah, like I was trying to be a rapper for a while.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, super awesome.
You
Yeah.
should put that up. You should put that up online.
My biggest regret is not following that dream.
Yeah.
I'm glad I
No,
went to sleep that day and like had a different dream.
it's funny because um, so I have two kids and we're listening to sometimes kid songs, sometimes just radio music, like just regular music, and I always find myself like changing the words to like incorporate Aiden or Mianelli or like what they're doing, and sometimes I wonder like, I wonder if I could actually like make. Then I
I
snap
could
back to
fucking
reality
do this.
because there's always something I mean that's like I could do that. Like I could pull that off.
when I was when I was younger, uh, I used to. I think in my last relationship, I used to tell my girl that I felt like I could do anything,
Mm-hmm.
like that I couldn't be good, like awesome at it, like I'd be great at it, but I feel like I could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last few years, I'm like, no, I was very delusional. It was very delusional. That's why. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but well, it just depends on how much you want to do it. Because in the moment you're like, this is so badass, and
I
like,
mean, yeah, it's like you like it and how hard it is to do, right?
yeah,
Because most things are really not that hard to do.
no, you just
It,
gotta do it. You
you
just gotta
gotta
try.
fucking do all the work. It's like that's. I'm allergic to that part, which is where like I've had to lower my expectations a lot.
No, you're you're a jackass. You're not allergic. You're just you just get this
Lazy?
first.
Is that the word?
Lazy?
Yeah.
Nah, not even that. You just I don't know what it is with you. It's like you want to do it. You have like these cool creative moments and stuff. Like who were you watching that made you want to do comedy or like just write a little thing? There had to
I
be
think
something.
I think it was people telling me all the time, like, dude, that's fucking hilarious. Like, dude, that's fucking hilarious. And it's just like people laughing at random shit. And like, I mean, a lot of it, I've noticed that the comics that make me laugh the most, that I find funniest, it's like their personality in that, in like how they tell their jokes and stuff. And I feel like as, even if it's not my personality, like my personality that's funny, I can come up with a persona and I could act it. Like I could act in that sense. So it was like a combination of things that I was like, I think I have that part. But I think going into comedy, I don't know, like to do it, it'd be like completely changing your life and like going like wholeheartedly into it. I'm not gonna do that. Like there are a lot of things that you can kind of like. I mean, you could. It's always best to go like full throttle, but there are a lot of things that you don't have to like completely immerse yourself into it, and you can still like have some success.
Kind of dabble.
Yeah, because I think with comedy, it's like if you're not all in it, you're. I mean, like it's either you have success or you don't. Like you can't.
Yeah, there are very few successful comedians and a ton of people that just want to be half-heartedly in and I'll do a set here or I'll go to the I'll write 10 minutes or whatever, 5 minutes, and it'll take like 6 months, and then somebody else that's like all in is like anytime they can possibly get, they're gonna be working on that, and then they're the ones that are actually going to succeed. And maybe you could succeed doing 10 minutes every 6 months, but it's going to take you 1,000 years.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna live that long. I mean, even if I could get a job like writing some play for something like that'd be great. But that's a small chance too. Like you'd have to put in a lot of work before you can get a job doing something like that.
Yeah, you already have to be like a known writer almost, or like have some sort of up and coming something around your name.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, let's get started with something. Should we talk about our lives?
We can talk about whatever you want.
Okay.
My darling.
It's like, okay, let's set the mood right now so we don't have to shift before. So I like this. I like this romantic. Yes, that's what I was going for. I'm gonna open a beer so there's no noise later.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. What am I drinking?
Yeah.
So a while ago, my favorite drink was gin and tonic because it was just like easy. And then somebody sent me a message saying that was like a sign that you were like a sociopath. And so, yeah. And I mean, I don't really believe in that all the way, but I'm like, just in case, I switched out the tonic for beer. So now it's like beer and gin. So, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that's not.
What is tonic? I don't know what that is.
It's tonic water. It's like it's just like sparkling water. I mean, it's so normally you get like a citrus with like citrusy taste. But yeah, it's just like sparkling water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gin and water. And now you're having gin and beer?
Yeah, that's not really why. But it's cheap. I got cheap beer and cheap gin, and I was drinking too much beer, and it's bad to drink too much beer because it's like it just like runs through your body, and for your body to be processing so much liquid, it's not good. And so now I'm drinking less beer, more alcohol but less beer.
more hard liquor.
Trying to take care of myself, man. Health is a lifestyle. You gotta really be committed.
Yeah, health is number one. If you don't take care of your health, what else do you have?
That's right.
That's funny. I actually, it's weird. So like the last month or so, since everybody's been inside, I was like, I wonder if people are going to start drinking more and smoking more because they left the dispensaries open. So yeah, weed sales are through the roof,
and alcohol.
And alcohol through the roof, and so is my consumption.
Yeah. I mean, what do you do?
Yeah,
it makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was already drinking a lot, but now everybody else is drinking a lot. So it's like, it's like, look at where we're all going through. Isn't it funny? It's funny.
But do you drink like morning, day and night, or?
Well, I mean, now it helps because we're waking up at 11 in the morning.
Nice.
Yeah. So like, I mean, normally if I have to take the dog out, I have to drink a beer so I can smoke a cigarette because I can't just smoke a cigarette if I haven't drank anything. Yeah, so
like alcohol or just
yeah, alcohol.
Okay.
Coffee could probably do it, but coffee makes me nervous. Like it makes me anxious. So I have to drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you start off the day with alcohol and a cigarette, huh?
Yep. I mean, it's selfish from my girl because she knows this and she still makes me go fucking walk the dog in the morning. Like she asked me to do it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that if I didn't have to walk the dog in the morning, I could wait like a couple more hours without drinking.
And she's like, nah, I'm cool.
I just have to get breakfast. I just feel bad for the dog because it's like noon and the dog hasn't gone out to fucking pee, and it's just like I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah.
Well, why didn't you wake up earlier?
Because I would just start drinking earlier, or she.
No, both of you.
We go to sleep at 2 a.m. Yeah, I go to sleep.
Jesus Christ!
I don't want to start drinking so early, dude. Come on. Again, I'm trying to take care of myself, man.
What do you guys do? Just watch movies all night?
Yeah, we we start watching we're watching a series on HBO. It's The Outsider or something like that. And so we'll stay up till 2 a.m. I get tired earlier, probably because I'm kind of drunk by then. So I just gotta go to sleep. But she'll stay up till 2 a.m. She's like, "Oh, the show's amazing." And I'm like, "Let's go to fucking sleep. Let's go to bed. What are you doing?" Yeah.
Dang. So I bought my first bottle of tequila. It was like $33, like Tres Generaciones. It was like pretty good price and good tequila. Finished it I don't know, a week or a week and a half or something. I was like, fuck, I can't buy another one for $33 in a week.
What was it? A quarter? A quarter? Is that what you got?
What do you mean a quarter? Like
a fifth?
I don't know, 750 milliliters, whatever.
Yeah, a fifth. Yeah.
And so then I was like, all right, I'll get something else. So I got Cazadores. Finished that thing. I was like, shit. So then yesterday I just got another bottle.
I can't do tequila. I don't know. I think something happened. It's what usually happens. You drink too much of it, we have that terrible night, and then the taste just you get it's reaction.
Yeah. So for the longest time I didn't drink it, but now it's just basically margaritas only.
Yeah.
I can't do shots. I'll die with shots.
Yeah, fuck that. Ugh.
But no, and I got that, and I got a 6-pack of beer. We already had some beer, so it's I'm drinking a ton, but drinking a lot more. But I wasn't really drinking that much before, and I'm drinking more, but not that much. I feel, because it's 1 or 2 a day, So
yeah, I mean it's not a lot, but I mean also if you weren't drinking a lot before, then you feel it a lot more.
But I don't.
Oh.
So yeah, I felt before I'll have a strong IPA, and it's like, okay, get a little buzz. Now it's like I chugged it, and it's you know.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is, man.
Yeah,
You might have a problem.
alcoholism.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I'll have to try it. I'll have to
Well,
keep testing.
I've been, I don't know. I've been trying to like do this thing where like I try to keep my consumption to like just what I need to get through the day. Just that, to like not push it. Because for a while I was just like, oh, I'm out of beer. I need another beer. And like as soon as my beer went out, I would like shake the can. It was like, okay, let's go get another one. And it's like, and I just started getting like cheaper beer that was weaker, and so now like, so then I was drinking more, and then I mixed with the gin, and I'm like, okay, I think I found my happy place. And I started thinking more about like my body. Like I'm gonna fuck this thing up hella quick if I don't watch it a little bit. Yeah.
That's also why I started getting tequila, because I was like, all right, it's a little stronger. I don't need to drink that much.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We're being conscientious. Yes, that's good. Okay, so let's talk about something, dude. Tell me, so this is something that I'm always interested in, like the fact that we like, I think the thing we have most in common is our background. I mean, we are family, but like when did you go to the US? Do you remember that?
Yeah, so I have like vague memories. Like the funniest thing that I don't think I'll ever forget. Hold on. Excuse me. The actually getting on the plane and like vaguely leaving because our grandma was taking care of us. So like saying goodbye, like saying bye to them. I don't even remember like our great grandparents. I think they were great grandparents, like our what's his name? Our grandpa Boncho, they called him. I don't know what his real
Yeah,
name
I
is.
see. I never really knew that part of the, like, beyond my grandparents, like our grandparents. I didn't really know anybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So our grandparents were taking care of us, but then our great grandparents. I think they're great grandparents. I'd have to get clarification.
Some old people.
Some people that loved us a lot. They would take care of us too, and so we would would go between houses or whatever. But when we left, I remember saying bye, and they were all like crying and stuff, and like, we're probably never gonna see you again, and just like,
Yeah, the things you say to a child. Yeah.
yeah, like, whatever, I guess I'm leaving. And then I don't like remember how we got to the airport, but then I remember like being at the airport, and we're getting through security, and then there's like these peanuts. I believe it was like at security, just a little peanut bag. I was like, okay, and like thinking back, I was like, oh, that was real, like a little bag of peanuts. But then we get on the tarmac, and I see this big ass plane, and I just stopped. Everybody's walking, the stewardess, my brothers, my dad, they're walking, and I just stop, and I'm like, are we getting on that thing? And they're like, yeah. I was like, I don't want to get on that thing, so I started running away. And then all the stewardess were chasing me. They were kind of chasing me around to grab me. Obviously,
Yeah.
I was 4 years old, and they finally caught me and got on the plane, and they gave us I think they gave me and Chewy a pill. Like, I think it was like a sleeping pill or something. I don't know. I remember like taking something.
Different times.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, wash this down with some gin, and you have a nice flight.
And you're good. And yeah, then after that, like I was awake for a little bit, so I'd see like oh shit, ant people or ant car, and yeah, then we got here, and to me it was obviously, it was 4 years old, you don't know what's going on, so it's just like, oh, okay, we're just going over there, going with mom.
That's so weird, dude. That's so weird that I never asked you guys like about how you guys had gone to the U.S. because I just thought we had that in common. Like, hey, we're both illegals. Like we've gone through this fucking thing, but you got on a plane and flew over there, and that was it. Like that was it.
Yeah,
At least for the crossing thing,
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking I. But you were 4
Yeah.
years old.
I think actually we flew from wherever we were to TJ.
Yeah.
And then we just drove across.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you were like super young. And you guys went with your dad? Just your dad?
Yeah, just him. I think I don't
Was your
even know.
mom already in the States?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly at what point we crossed or whatever, But
I guess you were a lot younger.
yeah, it was just like I said, just like a thing. Oh, we're going to go see your mom. Okay. Let's go.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, for us it was a lot different. It was like, no, like we're about to go, like shit's about to be real. Like we're about to go across the fucking desert, and like we already knew all the stories, like people talking about it and stuff. So it's a whole thing. But I was telling you, like, I can't believe we never really talked about it. I just always thought like exactly what we went through, they went through. Like that was it. That was that was it for me. Like I was just like, they know all this shit. But
No, sometimes I like I think or would like to actually do that.
Yeah.
Just to just to like experience, and I feel like it would. I don't know. There's got to be some sort of like extra gratitude having to go through that and actually then being here and trying to be successful here.
Yeah, I guess it depends on who you are. I mean, I think maybe for my brother it might have been that way, but I think it just kind of like for me at least, it kind of made me feel dirty for a long time. Like it just made me feel like, yeah, like that word, a wetback. Like I was that. Like I had fucking crossed the border, like through the desert, and like hidden in a truck, and done this thing. Like I don't know. For me, it was always just like until I started to just kind of. I was like, nah, like it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't. I don't care about any of the stuff. But for the longest time, since I crossed until I was like 17 years old, it was just like, oh yeah, like that's a thing. That's probably why I never talked about it. Like because we never talked about it. It was never like an experience that you talked about because you were kind of like I was ashamed of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's always like, and you guys got here. You were like what, 12 or something?
Yeah, I was 11.
11. Yeah. So I remember when the day you guys showed up, or the first
Did you
time.
guys come to our uncle's house to see us? Yeah, because grandpa was with us, so of course everybody was there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember it was kind of like, these are your cousins. Okay.
What do you want me to do? I don't know these fucking guys.
Yeah. And then we like, I felt like we started connecting or like hanging out and like, like pretty quick.
Yeah.
But I remember you guys would always make fun of us. Like, oh, no saben hablar español.
Like, we were assholes. You know what I always remember?
What?
When I started to use like English words, like you guys would always say "I know," right? You guys would always say, yeah. You guys would always say "I know." That was one of the words that you guys would always say, and so I started to say "I know," but I didn't know what it meant. Like I didn't know what it meant, and then so one time, one of you, I think it might have been you or maybe Chewy, I don't know. One of you guys was like, you don't even know what that means, man. And I was like, yeah, I do. And they're like, yeah, what does it mean? I'm like, I know. like, oh no. like,
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But we got along. I think we saw you. I mean, at least I saw you guys as like our best friends for sure.
Yeah. Hang out, always like try and spend the night, go wherever, walk all over the damn place.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys, I mean, I'm really thankful that we like found you guys, like we had you guys because you guys had a lot of stuff first, like introducing us to this new world or like making a smoother transition, and then like you guys had video games too. Like we'd go over there and we'd play fucking video games and stuff. Like that was cool. Like we had stuff to do because at the beginning, like we didn't have any money. Like we didn't have any money. So like a lot of things that we didn't really have access to, and like, but then at some point it was nice to have people to hang out with. I think because we got there in the summer and we didn't have anybody to hang out with. But then even after that, like you don't just make friends immediately. Like it takes a while to have people that you hang out with. So it's cool to just be able to be like, hey, we're gonna go hang out with our cousins and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I think you guys like made friends relatively quick. No, it almost seemed to me like just thinking back, maybe not at the time, but just thinking back, like we hung out a lot, and then you guys made friends, and then it was like, oh shit, like it's almost like you guys started becoming more like your friends.
Yeah,
it's almost, it's just like embodied.
I wonder, you kind of mentioned Omar, like you kind of put us both in that, but like I remember Omar, like he wasn't in the same, because I definitely like immediately started taking up, like I got into that whole like gang shit, and so I was like, yeah, these are my homies, like that's me, this is who I am now, I'm a fucking gangster, yeah. But Omar, I don't know. What's that?
I said at like 12 years old.
Yeah. My dad used to make fun of him. I kind of hated him for that for a while. Like once I realized how stupid it was, like that I was doing all that, I'm like, I wish my dad would have like taken the time and actually, I don't know if it would have changed anything, but I feel like if he would have said like, hey, this is not what you want to be doing. Like you could be doing a lot more than just this. But the only thing that he ever said in regard to that, and it was really obvious that I was like fucking up, because I was getting in trouble for wearing the stuff at school. Like I had a belt with like the number 13 on it, and like I was carrying around a shank and stuff. Like I don't know why the fuck I would do that. But they never talked to me about anything. The only thing, my dad one time, he saw my belt buckle and he was like, yeah, you think you're a fucking gangster? And I was just like, fuck you, dude. And that was it. That was our whole like, hey, gangs are a problem conversation. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. My dad was, I don't know. How was your relationship with your dad?
Non-existent, basically.
Non-existent. At what point did you guys move away?
I was like 13. It was like 2004. I don't remember how long it took. Maybe like 2 years before you showed up.
2 years.
Remember when you showed up, when you got here?
Yeah.
What year?
It was 2006.
Okay, yeah, so I was right on. Yeah. So we moved to Santa Rosa in 2004. And so I was 13 and
2006, 2009. I don't know. Like it's a 6 or a 9. So I don't know. I don't know. No, 2006. 2006.
Yeah, not 2009.
Okay.
Are you too loud?
No, cigarette smoke. Apparently, it's like she can smell it in there.
Oh.
Yeah.
That window doesn't open?
No, I got a window open and the door is closed. Like I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Get a fan. But anyway, in 2004 we moved to Santa Rosa, and then from maybe like a year roughly after that, then we basically just stopped talking.
It's hard to.
Yeah, I think it was
before you guys moved away. How was that? What are your memories? How old were you?
So we were. I was 13 when we moved away, but it wasn't even then. It wasn't like, I don't know. Like I don't have that many memories of us playing or like, oh, I'm gonna teach you how to do this.
Did he work a lot?
Just regular seemed like.
Yeah. So he was at the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then he was on a soccer team, like on like a Sunday soccer team or something like
Yeah.
that. Um, I don't know. Maybe if I thought a little bit harder, there there was a certain point where I felt like things were great. Like we'd go. He worked for a company. He was a manager at a company at uh where they made fabric for companies. Whatever, they dyed fabric. And so he managed the company or a department maybe or something. But anyway, that company would like throw like a summer picnic, for all the employees. And we'd go, it was like all big slides, all this food. And so like I felt like from whenever they stopped, like before when they were doing that and before, it was almost like things were pretty good, I would say. But still it wasn't like, we're gonna go hang out and we're gonna go, me and you guys are gonna go play soccer. Let's go ride our bikes. It was more, we were always playing by ourselves.
Yeah, but so think about like your idea of your dad in that space. I mean, I don't know. Maybe think about the fact that like when did he leave Mexico? Like when did he leave Mexico?
No clue, man.
Yeah.
No, I know he came first.
So you think that has anything to do with like how do you think that affects things? Like the fact because my dad left, but I had already had like a lot of experiences with him, like growing up, and like had a big
Yeah.
like an image of him. But there's like an empty space where he just kind of doesn't exist for you, right? Until you're like 4 years old, right?
Kind of. Yeah, because when I think of like all the memories that I have in Mexico or like grandparents, Caesar, um, like all the animals,
Yeah.
like yeah, it's not even. I can't remember.
Well, dude, let me say this: when we went to the U.S. after my dad had already been there for like I don't know, like 6 years or something, and we barely talked to him. Like at the beginning when he first left, it was like, yeah, like, hey, dad, like how you doing and stuff. Like we miss you, but that gets
Yeah.
old. Like you can't see him. It's just like in a conversation on the phone, and it gets old. And there was like a point where apparently that affected him a lot. We were just like, yeah, we don't want to fucking talk to him. Like I got nothing to say to him. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so there was those years it was empty, and some when we went to the U.S. to see him, it was like meeting him again. So
Yeah.
that was
For sure.
strange, but it was meeting him again. For you, it may have been like meeting him for the first time.
Yeah, and it's I don't know, like because I don't know if we ever had like I don't know if we ever had like a good like solid relationship, I guess. If it was like if you remember having a lot of experiences with your dad. I don't really remember having a lot of experiences with him.
I
Yeah.
don't. I don't technically. My dad wasn't really around that much. Like I always thought, like we always thought, like oh, because he's in the military, like he's gone all the time. But yeah, we did have like some experiences with him, and I do have memories of him growing up and him teaching us stuff, like how to tie my shoelaces and like him like telling us how to hold our forks and what to call our forks because like we called our forks trinches, which is like a trident. Yeah, and it's like no, it's a tenedor, it's a fork, and so it's like don't fucking call it that, and like giving us these little lessons and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's I mean he didn't really play with us either. Like I have probably more memories of him like hitting us, and like I mean there's one time he hit Omar because Omar had not been able to defend himself. This kid kicked his ass outside the house. And so my dad came out, like basically like shushed the kid. And then when we went inside, he hit Omar for not being able to defend himself. So
Oh
like yeah.
wow.
And then my dad coming home drunk too, where he would just like get crazy and we'd have to like tie him up. He didn't like really hit us when he was drunk, but we'd have to tie him up because he was just like kind of wild. And
Yeah.
then yeah, and so
That was
there's
in Mexico?
yeah, this was when he was like in the military.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I
Wow.
mean, there's a lot more than just that, obviously, but like, yeah, we did have some memories of him. But I listening to you right now, it was like, yeah, playing with your
It's
dad and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was almost like there's always a gap. There's always like, you know, I don't know when he left. Maybe he was, there when I was, first 2 years, but I don't remember that. But there was always a gap, when I was in Mexico, not there, and then we came here, still not really present with us, I would say, and then we moved to Santa Rosa, and then totally gone. So
Did you feel a level of affection towards him just because you knew that he was your father?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was yeah,
yeah.
But it's weird because, all right, so now you're making me think, but it's so I'm sure I had that. I'm like guaranteed I had that, but it's almost like just, I guess it would just routine, like, yeah, that's my dad, that's, and it's almost like, yeah, he's cool, right? Because you always think your dad is cool.
Yeah, and he wasn't like beating you or anything, so like there was no reason for you to think like he's an asshole.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, he's super cool. I remember one time actually, my friends in elementary or whatever, we would play soccer all the time, and it would always be like, oh, I'm so and so, like, I was always like, oh, I'm Luis Hernandez, like.
He was a soccer player, right?
Yeah. And so everybody's like, oh yeah, whatever. And then I was like, oh yeah, my dad plays for this team. I forget what even the team is called. And they're like, what? That's a professional team. I was like, yeah, my dad has that jersey. And I didn't know that it was like a professional team or anything. Maybe I vaguely knew, but I wasn't like really, wasn't watching soccer every weekend or whatever. And they're like, that's a professional team. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh shit, like your dad's your dad's legit.
Like, hell yeah.
He was like, yeah, dude. What do you mean this is a professional team? Like, we go to the park. Like in my head, I was like,
yeah. No professional team fucking plays at the community park.
But I'm like, I guess. I mean, like maybe I just don't know about this or something.
That's funny. I mean, there is always a guy taking pictures of them.
Exactly. Yeah, and then they're like, they'd get like the picture, of the team, and like they'd have a trophy or whatever.
Super official, yeah. If we're a kid, this is like, I mean, for me, that was like my dad being a soldier. Like seeing him in his uniform, he was just like this, like the ultimate image of authority and like just of being a badass, For a child, it's like blows your mind. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't the reason I was kind of like thinking about this with you. It was like, as a child, I feel like you are just meeting this person. You don't have any recollection. You've been told about him. You have a dad, obviously, and maybe you even talk to him and stuff on the phone or stuff like that. Yeah. But you don't really know this person. Yet you still have this affection for him. But there's got to be some disconnect there from both sides, probably, because you got to build that relationship from like over the years and stuff. And like, unfortunately for you, it wasn't like build a relationship, absence. And neither of the circuit, like what happened to us and what happened to you, they're both terrible things, because that shouldn't happen to a family. Like families shouldn't be broken up. But I think in that sense, like we're probably we're more lucky in that sense that we had that earlier in life. Like at least me and you.
Yeah, and I also think, because I'm always, for whatever reason, I'm always like thinking back. I'm weird. Like I'll think back to a conversation I had like a month ago, 2 months ago, a year ago. And I'm just like, going through the conversation in my head. And then for whatever reason, I like say one word of it or something, so I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, I'm always thinking back, and I'm like, did we really have like that bad of a childhood? Was it? And I'm like, we always had food.
It's all relative.
Yeah, we always had food, always had clothes. Not, like, it wasn't that bad. Sure, somebody like from the outside would be like, oh yeah, they're.
I mean, even if you think about it, like, obviously it doesn't do you any good to sit there and like pity yourself. But knowing the reality, like I always tell myself, I'm like, yeah, that was terrible. Like we shouldn't have gone through that. Like nobody should have to go through that, and it obviously fucks you up in some way. Like there's probably like something wrong with you now that's like, even if it's like a little thing, like you're freaked out by the color red, like just like, but yeah, it could be because of that thing, I mean, like you should look into that because it's all relative. It's like, okay, you had your father your whole life, that's better than what I had food and you didn't have food, like that's better, like for me. Yeah, I mean, right now immigration is, I mean, like it's always been like, when I became an immigrant, it was like, okay, immigration is something I'm going to think about for the rest of my life for sure. Right now they're one of the fixes they're trying to do in the US is to have more seasonal workers go to the US, because it's more manageable than just like giving people permanent residency, or even like just a permit for a couple of years or something. Kind of like what they're doing with DACA. And but they're asking people to leave their families behind for like 8 months, and I mean, that's not good. Like, what if they just had a child? That's like 8 months that they don't get to spend with their family.
Yeah, and the pay is not even that. I mean, again,
in relation to what they would make, like, yeah, that's fine, but no, it's not worth it. Like, nobody would be. I mean, nobody's gonna leave 8 months. Like, nobody in the U.S. is gonna leave their family for 8 months for what they're getting.
No. Yeah, and they're
to do the fucking job that they're doing.
Yeah, they're trying to pass a bill so that agricultural companies can pay less. They're trying to reduce their wages right now. Can you believe that?
Well, I
saw
mean,
that. It's like, okay, yeah, now they're considered essential workers. Need to keep food on everybody's table.
And like, right now, you're trying to do that?
Yeah, exactly. All these years you've hated, immigrants that have come to work the fields. They're taking everyone's jobs, and now they're essential workers. And then on top of that, I think, for one, you don't want them there, but you have to have them. Whether you say you don't like them or not, that you're gonna have immigrants working the fields. That's just no questions. But then slap them in the face again and be like, oh, you know what? Those, 10 cents you get paid for every 100 pounds of whatever that you pick or harvest. Now it's gonna be 8 cents.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there are lots of things that need to change in that sense. Like, because what drives something like that, like a move like that, is like, okay, we need to keep things cheap for people so that they can keep consuming them, right? Like the best price we can get for everything, because then margins can be larger, right? When we're talking about fucking food, we shouldn't be thinking about that. Like, okay, what's fair for everybody? Establish that and just run with that. Just run with that. There's going to be variables, like things that change. Like, okay, maybe it's harder to get water, so like we need to figure that out. But it's like, it's never something unpredictable. Like, when it comes, I mean, it is unpredictable, but like when it comes, you deal with it, and that's it. Like, there's nothing to that. But I mean, one thing you said, it's like, I feel like there's always like trying to justify people being there. Like, it's like, okay, we need immigrants, we need to appreciate immigrants. Like, they're putting food on the table. It's like, no. It's just the fact that it's necessary. Like, they were there for a reason. If they were sleeping on the street and not doing anything, like, I'm like, okay, we need to fucking deal with this. But if there's people performing a job, a function, like, nobody should be questioning their existence. Why is anybody questioning their existence if they're there performing a function?
Yeah, especially something like, agriculture. All the people that they're like, oh, send them back or whatever.
Yeah.
You're eating,
what are you going to do? What the fuck are you going to do if you just send them back? It's like, okay, well, bring them in legally. Okay, well, let's figure fucking something out. Like, because if people are there illegally, and that's not like, a lot of people just don't want to see brown people. It's like, what's with all these brown people speaking Spanish? What the fuck? Yeah. So, but we'll kind of push off of that for a little bit and just focus on like illegal immigration. if you really want to fix that, fucking fix it. But fix it. Like, okay, we got people here. Figure out who needs to be here. Everybody that's here is serving a function. You know, figure out who's their employer. Can they vouch for them? And just do that and get something going right now and figure out how they're gonna, because I don't think, like I said, this like seasonal worker thing, that's not like who, if we're being human beings, and do we really want to treat people like that? Like just use them and like squeeze a little bit of labor out of them and throw them back?
Well, people will sign up for that regardless, and I mean, it could be a good start. I mean, if you want something that's going to be beneficial or agreeable to both sides of the argument, I mean, I don't see why that's a bad thing. If you look at the morality of it, I mean, maybe just set better living conditions. I don't know. It's you're not ever going to win the complete argument, so you're going to have to, you know, give some of it up. And I think as long as people are willing to do it, and as long as people are, you know, not
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, if that's the only fucking option, people are gonna take it. Of course, people are gonna take it because it's better than nothing.
Yeah, but then actually have some standards, you know. So again, like there's some houses here, or you know, where the owners of the vineyard or whatever provide housing, and some of them are pretty nice, other ones are not so nice. But you know, I mean, I imagine they're a lot better than they would be.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I don't think like that would be the issue really. Like, do they have this? Is the standard of living like acceptable? You know, I'm like, yeah, of course it's acceptable. I've seen how they live. Like, it's like going to college. You know, but they're not going to college. These are like grown men that have to leave their families behind. Like, I mean, like that's probably the only issue that I have. It's like we shouldn't be treating people this way. Like, do we need people? Do they want to come and live here? Come and live here and do the thing that we need. Like be a part of our society because we need you. And like that's a thing that we need to accept, like people need to accept in the US. Like I still see it as a problem because it's like it's the only world view that I have, you know, that I'm bringing from over there. But I mean, it's the only place that I know that happens. I mean, I'm sure it happens in other places, but I think it's a pretty straightforward thing, and it just comes down to morality. And of course, there's like a lot of legal stuff that needs to get figured out, but it shouldn't be that hard.
No, it shouldn't. But just like everything, when politics.
The only reason I think about this is because it always just seems like a reasonable argument to have, but then you have people like us that get affected by these things. It's like, okay, I mean, I don't know. I don't think my dad should have, like, I don't think he could have, I don't know if he did survive being away from his family. Like, I don't know. I think that put too much distance between. The only thing that happened is like my mom didn't know anything else, and he probably didn't know any better than just like I got to provide for my family, and so he stayed, and they stayed together. But like, my parents were really not together. They were just like racing us. Like that was it. You know? Yeah. It's like, I don't know. There's like, I mean, if you leave your house for 8 months and I don't know, like your relationship was already kind of shaky, like that could ruin it. That could ruin your relationship.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I mean, it definitely tears families apart, tears people apart, just relationships in general.
I mean, relationships are so fragile.
They can be, and I think it just depends on the situation too, the people. But enough time away without, you know, physical contact, because just touch, holding somebody's hand is, you know, just huge compared to if you're just always just going to be like on the other side of the room or whatever.
Dude, I mean, a bond a bond is something that needs to be nourished in that sense. Like, I don't think, I mean, even if you, like, we were talking about you and your father, like, you knew he was your father, and that was enough to keep it, for you to be like, that's my father. And I'm like, I'm proud of him. And he's like, I love him, for enough to keep that. But, like, that relationship could have been stronger. And could that have been helped by constant, interaction from the time you were born? Maybe, maybe not. But what if, like, I mean, yeah, we can't live with what ifs, but it's like, think about the people that are still having to go through this shit. Like, we're not thinking about us. It's like, what about other kids?
Yeah, because it's a huge. I mean, even the people that are won't ever see their parents again, or whatever. They're coming here, and it, like, your dad maybe thought that he was gonna go back, and one more year, and then we get this, or maybe they start seeing some success, start building a house over there, and like you said, after 6 years, you didn't even want to talk to your dad anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like, so with time, it's always going to erode the relationship, and you always, just human desire, nature, you're going to want to connect physically with somebody, just touch, just feeling some sort of physical affection,
Yeah.
There was I don't know if you remember, heard that there was an experiment of, like, these monkeys that one monkey, they put a stuffed animal, and they made the stuffed animal its mom, and another monkey, they put like a spiky animal, and that was its mom. And it was like a stuffed animal, but it was spiky, so you'd try and touch it and get hurt.
Yeah.
And so no other physical connection between them. And obviously the one with the spiky animal that could never really physically hold anything else was mentally and just totally emotionally underdeveloped,
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just
Dude,
makes sense.
We're extremely fragile. Like, as individuals, our minds they're just we're just fragile. Anything affects us. Anything and everything affects us. And so, like, just spending any time away from your family, like that, just having the experience of being separated from somebody, like, that's going to scar you for life. Like, that's something going to stick with you for life. You're probably going to have some anxiety over that. And they're like, why are we making people go through that? Like, that's like I think the only argument that I could come up with, and the only argument that might be needed. Like, I don't know why there needs to be another argument.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think people just need to realize, like, people come to the country because, yeah, they want to better themselves, but also because there's a demand, like, somebody needs to pick the food, although, more robots are being made so that there's less labor involved, but still, like, robots aren't picking everything, and they're not gonna be able to do everything, but there's a demand, obviously. So agriculture industry needs immigrants, and immigrants need a job, and so as long as there's a demand for immigrants in the country, they're going to keep coming. But people don't want to accept that is what drives people here as well.
I mean, that's the logical and rational argument that's always going to be more powerful than any other argument. It's always just going to have more weight for some reason. And
yeah, but people don't accept it. Like, it's just, they're coming over here and they're whatever,
Yeah. But I mean, but that's, I mean, like, in the end, it's just like, that's just racism. Like, that's just racism. Like, you can't call it anything else, because they're not, like, if they're not being racist, then they'll accept that rational argument, right? Like, if it's not xenophobia, then that's a reasonable argument to make.
Yeah.
On the other hand,
I don't know if, like, anybody, and I don't follow politics hardly at all, but have you heard of anybody, like, high politician, ever making that argument? Like,
I think I've heard it mentioned, like, but I mean, maybe it's even more like they try to push more the argument that I was making, where it's just like more trying to, like, tug at your heartstrings and stuff. Like, hey, these are people, we need them. They're part of America, like, whatever. I don't know.
Great, and that's true, but I don't know, and I think that even if people you sat down and told them, and you get the head of whatever Driscoll, to tell them, yeah, we produce this food with help of immigrants, and we need their help, and I feel like even if a
Washington
CEO
State.
said that, then they would be like, nah, but they're still coming in here legally.
Okay, so this is where I've heard it a lot. So moving to Washington State is a place, even though like California had that big movement that like agricultural the farm workers, whatever, Cesar Chavez and stuff. Yeah, but Washington State had they have a lot of this because in Central Washington there's a lot of agriculture, and the farmers, they're like, we need to figure something out because we can't be worried about like, okay, if I hire illegal immigrants, are they going to come after me? Like, I need them, and so I've heard this a lot. It's like, I need these motherfuckers, and I'm going to hire them because there's nobody else that's willing to do the job, and there's like, I just don't have any other options. So like, yeah, giving licenses to undocumented immigrants, that was Washington State did that, remember? I mean, like, I don't know if you know this, but like my parents, like one of the big incentives of going to Washington, and once we were in Washington, I think one of our uncles wanted to go there to get their license because California wasn't doing it. That's because people couldn't get to work if they didn't have the license, and they needed this undocumented people to go to work. So yeah, so they do think, and it's like rational. It's like, we need these motherfuckers. So like, let's get something figured out. Let's get some laws passed. But I don't think it ever pushes to the national level. Like, it's always just like in the state legislature, and they try to keep it quiet because all those people, the people that are voting, because I mean, most of the people that are voting in Central Washington are white people. Like, most of the people that are voting are white people, and so like, if they're hearing that like you're getting like illegal immigrants any type of help or any like getting a license and stuff like that, they're gonna be like, no, we're not gonna reelect this representative. So it's weird, but yes, people are talking about this. People are arguing about it, but the general public, no. General public is not really thinking about these things. And if you say that, well, we need them, at the end of the day, it's just like just xenophobia. But we can't blame the general public. We need to blame the politicians. Like, there needs to be something there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the fact that people get scared, and it's natural. Politicians they want to stay in office. They want to keep their job, so they get scared to try and push the boundaries. But I mean, there's ultimately or eventually that conversation just needs to happen nationally. And
I think
just rational, just just cut the bullshit. Like, this is why. Look, why do same with the cartels? Why do cartels send drugs to the United States?
Because you're man. Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, yeah, but I mean, we already present these, like, people present these rational ideas all the time, and it just like falls right off of people. Why? Because there's ignorance, and you're not gonna fix that unless you fix it at like educational level. Like, if you don't start teaching like philosophy in schools where people can learn earlier in life that we're exactly the same, and the borderline doesn't fucking mean anything, and just because people live differently than you, that doesn't mean anything. But it's just like, that's all a shock to people, and like people that never go and see other cultures, never experience other cultures, like, you could be 50, 60, you could be 90 years old and still just be shocked by like seeing an Indian people, like a person from India. It's just like, oh my God, what the fuck is this person? It's like, oh, what are you doing? Yeah. So we need to fix that, because if we don't fix that, people are just going to keep rejecting those ideas, and they're going to have to happen in the background. Because even if politicians and the people that actually run things, like CEOs and the people that run things, farmers, like, if you own a farm, you understand the problem, and you're not just gonna like, you're like, okay, I fucking hate these Mexicans, but I fucking need them. So we need to pass laws so I can have more Mexicans here, Like, so it just comes down to that, because not everybody that votes and not everybody that has a say in how you run a society needs these things or understands the problem. A lot of them are just in if it doesn't affect you directly, you have no obligation to care about it. You have no reason to really like understand it. You're like, nah, fuck that. Like, no. Like,
and sometimes I think there's so much going on that it's like, do I really want to spend my time? This is how I think. Like, do I want to spend my time worrying about everything that's going on, like every bad thing? Like, I gotta stand up for everybody's problems.
Nobody should have to. Like, it should be like, okay, there's a problem. How are we going to deal with it? But the problem is that they never get solved until they come up and they come up and they come up and they come up and they come up. It's like we push it down in our minds for a minute, and then there's another headline. It's like, okay, people are still dying crossing the border. It's like, ah, damn it, that's still a fucking thing. Yeah, but if we fix that, then we wouldn't have to keep thinking about it. My problem is that I can't stop fucking thinking about it, and it's like I don't think I'm ever gonna have peace until, and I don't know what I can do. Like, I could probably go talk to like a professional, I don't know, I could go to therapy for a while, but so far I can't get that off my mind. Like, every time I think about racism, time I think about illegal immigration, every time I think about those things, it's just like I fucking crumble. Sometimes I'll cry. I'll cry thinking about like people that are like just anybody. I always think about my mom. Like, I see people that are illegal here. Like, you always see people selling stuff. It's like, or asking for money in the street or something like that. I'm like, if that was my mom, like, God damn it. Like, why are we doing that? And then that's why I think about like, okay, what does she need? She just needs fucking food. She needs to not worry about rent. She needs to like, can we just take care of that? Can we just not make her be out in the street like this? And it was like, that's what I would want for my mom.
Yeah, and that's because you make it very personal. Once you make it that personal, and then everything's gonna hit you hard.
But I mean, I know that my mom could easily find herself in that situation.
Yeah.
And I mean, we should all think about that. Like, all of our moms, no matter who you are, life just think about. I mean, a lot of people were crying over Kobe dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to think about death. And they're like their biggest idol, because this was a big idol for a lot of people, just dies at like 40 something, which is super young. But you're like, oh my God, this is terrible. And then you forget about it. Like, you forget about it. It's like, really, how you living your fucking life is nothing going to make you question how you're living your life.
Man, there's so much package.
Yeah. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. I wanted to talk about us.
It's cool. But that's why I always go back to like, do I want to worry about everything, or do I want to worry about a couple things?
I don't want to.
That I can change. But I don't know. You allow yourself to get that deep, I would say. Yeah. Because I don't let myself get that deep, because you always have that. Maybe not everybody experiences it, but there's always like that moment where you're like, God damn, was that racist, or like that was definitely racist. Like you're like freaking at the supermarket, like whatever. Like one time I was at the market, we go there freaking all the time, and go to get like trying to get like some sort of like lemonade or whatever, like fancy lemonade for dinner.
Lemonade, yeah.
I forgot what it was. It was like, I don't know. But anyway, this old lady, white lady, is like in the aisle, and she's like further down, about halfway, and I'm at the end. And she looks at me kind of weird, and then goes back, because I stayed over there. Then I start moving, and like as I'm looking at the selection, I start getting closer to her, and then she looks at me again, grabs her stuff, looks at me weird again, and then like left without like getting her stuff. She was like trying to shop, and as I was getting closer, she kept looking at me weird, got her stuff, and then just left. I was like, okay.
Was
For a moment, I was like, okay, that was weird. I maybe like you get too sensitive to it to where you think like that was
Maybe
weird,
you did something.
but yeah, like I get like maybe like I've gotten too sensitive to where I feel like they were being weird, but they really weren't. But so I'm always like, huh, was that, and then
But
I just get over it. But
yeah, but dude, the thing, the problem is like nobody should have to do that. Like nobody, like you shouldn't have to go through that process in your mind. And there's a reason you're going through that process, and it's because you face racism and that you know that it exists. Like, I have this story where my my roommate's girlfriend, I went to meet her parents because I don't know, whatever. It was during the Kentucky Derby in like I don't know what year, and we watched the Kentucky Derby, had a great conversation, and I met her husband, and it was just like it was a great time. Went back home, and then she came to the house and she asked my roommate if I was Mexican, and this were her words. She was like, "Is he full Mexican though? Because he just sounded way too smart to be Mexican." I'm
oh
like,
wow,
what the fuck? Like, what the fuck, dude? And like, so that changes how you see the world. Like, even if that, like, that was definitely not the only racist thing I've had to experience, obviously,
yeah,
because it's just they come a dime a dozen, you know? They come a dime a dozen. Yeah, but I mean, if you just experience that one thing, that'll warp your reality forever.
yeah, because it's always like in the moment, like a lot of times in the moment, I don't know how to react, but it's always like a little thing, it's like a drop of water, like
Yeah,
little
but then
thing.
there's like you
Next,
said, I mean, there
like,
are things like where there are vague, like what happened to you, where it's like I
yeah,
don't know, like maybe she was racist, maybe she was, but then like there's no like she was
yeah,
being
there's
racist.
then there's blatant stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
like there's,
Yeah, one time I went into an open house. We were looking to buy a house. And the realtor that was there, the open house, she's like, um, the house it was like I don't know, like 550 or something. And she's like, "Is this even in your price range?" I was like, "What?"
what is that supposed to mean, bitch?
Like, I'm here, aren't I? Do you think I know what it's on the market for? Like, fucking
Oh, this costs money? This is money stuff? Like
I
what? How are you even supposed to respond? Well, see, I think my problem was that I went to an area where and I hung out with people because I think my crowd where was not the and this is probably racist to say, but like most of the people who look like me where I live were not the people that I wanted to hang out with because intellectually they just because of inequality and
yeah,
stuff they just a lot of the time you know what happens
yeah,
and
sure.
so you have a lot of these people that just don't they just yeah
Nothing
and
going.
yeah and so like you don't want to be in that crowd and so I was like hanging out with a lot of the white kids and but the white kids there were like rednecks and there's a lot of racism in there and
Yeah,
so I had a girl one time because her boyfriend would say shit like one time I got to the house and her boyfriend wasn't really my friend. He was just some dude. I got to my buddy's house and he was there. And I was shaking everybody's hand, like, hey, Ivan, like, what's up? And come to him and he like pulls his hand and he's like, I don't shake hands with Mexicans. And I was like, all right, okay. And then everybody's like, well, dude, what the fuck? Because I'm like, I'm cool,
yeah,
um, which is weird that everybody has to say like, yo, no, he's cool, dude. Like he's not one of those Mexicans.
he's one of the good ones.
Yeah. That's
And,
another story. Um,
yeah,
but and then he kind of realized it maybe, and he was like, oh no, it's cool. And then everybody was just like, don't shake his hand, Ivan. Like, don't shake his hand.
yeah,
And so I didn't. I was just like, yeah, fuck this guy. And his
mm,
girlfriend later in the night, she was like, why are you hanging out with these guys? And I'm
mm,
like, because they're good guys. Like us, I mean, like I can handle a little bit of racism. Your boyfriend's a dick, and I don't like him. But like
mm,
everybody else was like, I mean, this guy who actually committed suicide is a really good friend of mine. He was just like he'd drop anything and just go out and help me for whatever. And
mm,
yeah, from time to time he'd say racist shit, but like his parents probably said a lot of racist shit. He probably heard a lot of this shit. And he was a
yeah.
smart guy. He should have known better, but it was just his world and everybody has an identity.
Also intention too, like if you know somebody's like true intention, then it's like, I don't know, you can kind of
Yeah.
throw some jabs.
I had this other guy that like he said to me one time, he's like, I fucking hate Mexicans, but you're cool. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you got a lot of shit to figure out in your life. But he was all right. Like he just was ignorant. Like ignorance is not always evil, Like that's the way I always explain it. It's like ignorance is not evil. Ignorance can lead to you being shitty, but it's not like definite. It's not a definite term. He was ignorant and he just didn't know any better. But yeah, it's the fact
Yeah,
that you have
doesn't make him a bad person.
no, and we just need to fix that. And it's really not that hard to fix ignorance. It's really not.
I feel like it is.
Well, I mean, think about the fact that we're trying to take, like, the U.S. when this administration went into place, they were trying to take a bunch of money away from public education. Like,
Yeah.
okay, that's not going to help it.
Didn't they eventually do that? Like,
Yeah, they did. They were like they defunded a bunch of shit.
mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
so
things that like
that's the root, I think, of everything. That's the root. Education without having, a higher standard for education, then
and this is where you get into the dark areas that we're not going to get into. We're not going to get into dark areas, but it's like when you realize that educated people and people that are not ignorant can really shake up shit, because then they just kind of realize it's like, whoa, this is fucked up that we're acting this way. You don't want that. You want people to be like in their own lives and just kind of worry about their own shit and like be a little bit racist. That's fine. And that's it. You don't want any more from them, because that way you can stay at the top and they won't question you because they don't know any better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like it's good to take money away from that.
Yeah, that's when you get into world order type shit.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that.
There is some truth to that, I think. I don't know. I hate how it's always education that takes. Oh, we need to cut money somewhere. Education.
Yeah.
Kids don't need to learn.
I think the only argument that I can make is like, let's start to teach people philosophy, because like from kids can learn these complicated concepts. Like any parent should be teaching their kids philosophy, so that they can see the world as it is, so they don't have this warped idea of how the world works, because all the concepts in our reality are really simple, but they get changed and they get changed and they get changed by how you see everything works, because things don't work as they should. Things don't work as they should. They just work as they do because things have been pushed to work that way. Yeah. So anyway. Yeah.